All I want for Christmas is a new boutique. So despite the fact in last week's SMR, and before anyone shouts at the video or sends me comments about demonstrating the RD9, I said very early on in the video I wasn't going to demo it. And guess what? I still had somebody leave a comment with an expletive saying, you haven't demoed it. Sometimes you have to accept you just can't win. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. On to the subject of this particular video. Back at the beginning of November, if you're on the Roland mailing list, you would have received an email on some new products that they were launching in December 2021. These new products were the JD08 and the JX08. Both products are part of the boutique range of synthesizers, and these are boutique versions of the JD800 and the JX8P. So do I want these for Christmas? I should probably point out at this point. I'm pointing out that this is a point. That this is being recorded pre-Christmas, okay? So, and it will be published post-Christmas. So just to point that point out. Okay, we're clear. So the JD08. Boutique version of the JD800, and it will sort of appear somewhere here. Now the Roland JD800 came to the market in 1991, had a 5-year production run until it was discontinued in 1996. By 1991, Roland had moved away from analog synths in any form, I think, at that point, and were only producing digital synths. So this was kind of predecessed by the D synth range. And this was a fully digital synth. The synthesis is based on the same synthesis as the D series, which is the linear arithmetic, or LO for short synthesis. And you know, those of you who have a D series synth know kind of how that works. One of the most notable and distinctive features of the JD800 was that it was covered in knobs and faders. And I don't think this was by accident. The previous D series and some of the other synths that Roland had been pushing out had this kind of minimalist look, which was kind of mirrored by most of the industry across most of the synths of this era. If you look at the M1, the D series, a couple of Yamaha synths I can't think of off the top of my head, quite a lot of them had this kind of minimalist look in terms of everything was hidden in menus. If you wanted to do something, you had to load a menu up and you did it that way. And if you wanted to sort of do something a bit more serious, you needed a programmer, thinking specifically of the PG1000, PG800, PG200, PG100. You kind of get the drift. So these are all Roland programmers, by the way. The same was pretty much true for the DX7. Yes, you could do everything from the menus, but it was a damn sight easier if you had some sort of programmer, and there were programmers of the day. There was the CX5M had a dedicated programmer. I bought the cartridge up on the last week's SMR about the new programmer program. I'll get that. Try that one last week, and so pretty much, you know, this was kind of a departure. The JD08 seems to have replicated that busy knobs and fader user interface in all but in a small form factor. Are all the controls replicated? To be honest, can't tell at the moment. From what I've seen, a lot of them are, but I don't think all of them are. What it will be interesting to see with this particular boutique is whether it replicates the 24-note polyphony of voices, depending on which way you want to look at it, of the original JD800. Now we know that on a previous statement from Roland, and I think it was on the DO5 they made this statement, that it was limited to 16 note polyphony, which was kind of what they were telling us the boutique upper limit was. So it would be interesting to see whether they've managed to get 24 on this or whether it is still on that 16 note upper limit. That's my quick view of the JD800. Do I want one? Actually, I've got to be honest and say I'm not sure. I wasn't really a fan of the original JD800. I know a lot of people out there probably are, but I wasn't. And this unit is on sale for about £350 UK. And I have to be honest and say I might be more tempted with the plug out on the Jupiter X than the boutique. But I need time to sort of weigh up the promotional videos and other influencers on YouTube who will be pushing this particular product. So let's move on to the JX08. And this is the boutique version of the JX8P. And I did a series of videos over the summer on the JX8P that have been kindly lent to me by Richard, prior to him selling it, of course. And again, I should make another statement here, which is something that has popped up when reading the marketing material for these two particular boutiques, because Roland has now changed the marketing message for the boutique, and Roland are now calling these instruments sound modules rather than boutiques. They've kind of cottoned onto the fact that people were buying these boutique instruments for the sounds, and they weren't gimmicks, which is a kind of where I think Roland was going with the early versions, and it's probably why the early versions had such limited production runs, because Roland saw them as more of a gimmick than a serious instrument that would be used by musicians. Haha, joke's on you, Roland. They are a serious instrument. You put a lot of time and effort into ACB, and guess what? People buy them because they are so close. And I reference back again to a video I did on the Juno, where I paired off the Juno, an original Juno 106 with the boutique JU6A. And I have to be honest and say, you know, in that video I made the conclusion that they were so close to each other in terms of the presets. Anyway, the JX08 is stated as a replica of, as I say, the JX8P digital-controlled analog synth from 1985, and as I said, I did a series of videos on that. The JX8P was a very coveted synth, and many synth-based musicians have this synth in their rig or using VST versions of this synth for their compositions. And the one that always springs to mind with this is Kibu, Sebastian Tier, Finnish guy. And if you haven't clocked Sebastian Tier or Kibu, which is what his stage name is, then you should probably look at it, because he is a modern day Jean-Michel Jarre. That's kind of where I put it. Anyway, if you look at his rig, if you go and look at his YouTube videos and you look at his rig, you'll see a JX8P pretty prominent in that rig. He uses a JX8P for his compositions. The boutique doesn't mirror the interface of the original JX8P though. That's one of the things which I have noticed. Which I thought, I mean, I said it on video at the time when I was looking at the JX8P, I thought the interface was horrible. It was one of these sort of, what do you call it, touch, membrane touch pad thingies, and it was absolutely horrible. And funny enough, Richard, who actually owned the synth, also said that he found the interface horrible as well. But what they seem to have done with the JX08 is they have actually incorporated the PG800 into the interface, so that you can actually muck around with the parameters actually on the unit. Now, does it have all the PG800 controls? Again, I don't know about that, but it looks to actually cover pretty much most of the ones that you would want to change seem to be covered off in this small form factor. So that's quite interesting. There are a couple of interesting points I've picked up from the marketing so far on this, and that is the ability to layer two sounds. So the JX8P didn't have that ability on the original synth, but the JX10 did. And it's really interesting that both synths, the JX8P and the JX10, had a very similar in fact almost the same architecture, but effectively the JX10 was 2 JX8Ps. And while Roland have called this a JX08, it seems to be replicating a lot of the functionality of the JX10. Very interesting, that piece. They've also said they've added a Juno 106 chorus to this, which again I find very interesting, because on the JX3P and the JX8P, if you wanted to sort of fatten the sound out, you detune the oscillators slightly to give you a bit more width in terms of what the sound was doing. Whereas what they've done with this is you don't have to detune the oscillators now, as you would have done in the old days, to give you that width. You can just run a Juno 106 chorus on it. Again, interesting. And the third thing they've done here, which is they seem to have done on most of the boutiques they've issued, is add an arpeggiator. So whether the keyboard had the arpeggiator in the first place, Roland have taken the decision on most of these boutiques to add the arpeggiator to it. Again, £350 UK. Is it going to go on the Christmas list? This one might. So in conclusion, one might not be on my Christmas list from Santa Claus. So if you didn't get one of these for Christmas in your stocking, then are you going to head off to your local retailer and buy one in the new year? I haven't seen any of them come up in the sales actually so far. Some of the sales have started early, so we'll have to watch into the new year to see if the retailers do actually offer any sort of discount on these two new products. I suspect most of them will try and keep them at retail. And it's very interesting that when you look at these and then look at some of the articles, I was doing a piece which I'm going to record after this, which is all about where has this year gone in terms of for the channel. And I recall back to a video I did early in the year, which was about the fact that the big manufacturers were being fined by regulators for operating cartels. I'm not going to say any more about that, but it's an interesting, you know, if they're operating cartels, are the prices going to be decreased by one retailer over another? And I suspect the answer is they're not. Anyway, on this one, as I say, I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. This is actually before Christmas, so it's pointless me wishing you a Merry Christmas, because by the time you see this, it won't be a Merry Christmas. But I will wish you a Happy New Year. And as I sneeze, live long and prosper. Bye-bye.